Welcome to 13 on a Monday. This week it will return to Saturday, and I'm sorry for the delay, but it had to be Monday this week. This week we were talking about deactivation. Two Colorado bills that were introduced went into law 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago. SB 24075, which was a Senate bill, and HB 241175, which is a House bill. The Senate bill refers to rideshare. The House bill refers to delivery. One of the key takeaways from both of these bills is the driver's right to challenge a deactivation. So I was going to go about this a few different ways. And I want to remind you guys, please, please, please leave your questions, comments, and concerns in the comments below. I will reply to all of them. It makes for a much better conversation when you guys put all that in there, and I love it. And don't worry, you're not bogging me down. I like answering all of them. So it might just take me a minute to get to them, but I will get to every one of them. Excuse me. The problem that I'm seeing when I was trying to figure out which direction to go with today's 13, I had to go back to my roots as a traditional independent contractor doing production work, doing lasers, lighting, sound, pyrotechnics, all the things that I've done since the 90s. And all the independent contractors that I know who I've worked with over the years who are in the traditional independent contractor space, not in the app-based platform gig space. I've said that we needed a hybrid version of this defined a long time ago. I mean, let's be 15 years now. Uber's been around for 15 years, and there is no definition, even to exactly that we are independent contractors, because since the first day, it's been kind of challenged. But it's only just the past few years that it's really come up. I think that a lot of companies went public right around the pandemic. I think that people were almost needed during the pandemic. So why would you address this kind of thing? So I think that we're falling to those times where it's, okay, look, we need to address this. My problem is it's been around for 15 years. So guess what? It's a little late in the game. And when you do that, defining something isn't as easy as saying, this is what this means. Because now you have different states, different regulations, different bills going around, and they're all trying to accomplish different things. The goal in the end should be to help the drivers, but without interfering with a company's way of operating if that company is doing things proper. But this is where I want to go to my traditional independent contractor work. I had a lot of people say to me, listen, if I was a real independent contractor, I would be setting my own prices. That is 100% not true. 100% not true. I've been an independent contractor since the 90s. I never set my own price. Whether it be lighting, lasers, sound, pyrotechnics, or even just staging. All 5 of those productions are independent contractors most often. Okay, well, I don't set my price. I get a proposal from every one of those spaces. Every one of them. I never call and say, this is how much you're going to pay me. I get a proposal. Now, in that proposal is complete transparency. This is how many days. This is the location. Here's the airline or the flight that you'll be using to get there. Here's the hotel you'll be staying at. This is what you'll use for transportation. Here is the complete pay for the entire task, job, gig, whatever you want to call it. And here is your daily per diem, which is external money to live on, you know, like for example, laser and lighting, which I do most of. In country, there's a per diem, and out of country, you get a little bit more. So it's just kind of your pocket money, so it doesn't affect your earnings. But all of that is laid out, but I don't set that price. So I just wanted to be clear with you guys. Many of you make that comment that if I can't set my own prices, I'm not an independent contractor. That is not true. Most people that are independent contractors, I mean, some do. Some might be bidding out, putting in tile to a new house, and they're just bidding that portion to the contractor to be a subcontractor. But that in those cases, you're talking about subcontractors. Independent contractors as a whole, more often than not, are getting bids and proposals. Newspaper writers, things like that, they're not setting their own prices. They're given a proposal. Do you want to write this article? And they're shown all the details and how much it'll pay when it's due and all that stuff. But as a traditional independent contractor, there is no deactivated. There's no word deactivated. You cannot be deactivated. That is not a thing. Deactivated, by definition, means fired. And fired, if you go and look, and I'm talking about every state, you guys, whatever state you're in, go look it up. I mean, but fired is a term used only by W-2 employees and employers. So how are we using deactivated / fired in an independent contractor space? Now, there has to be some kind of metrics as to if somebody does this or this kind of, you know, something really extreme. There has to be a way to maybe hit a pause button. But again, we live in a country where you're innocent until proven guilty, correct? I can understand if it might have involved a minor or something like that. You might have to be on a pause until you can get this looked at. But they need to come up with some better means about that, because we are not employees. And as much as I've said many times, they love to treat us like employees and pay us like independent contractors. The perk of being an independent contractor is that you are not an employee. So I don't want to be treated like an employee by these apps. Also, when I was referring to bidding, and you don't set your own prices all the time. I mean, you do. If you want to think of it that way, you can, but you need to understand a bid or a proposal or an offer is the same as setting your own prices. Because I might get one and go, no, I don't want that. It doesn't pay enough, or I don't want to be there at that time, or that's too long of a gig for me right now. There is never a penalty in any of the other traditional spaces I'm in, meaning acceptance rate, which is another thing. Like no traditional gigs use an acceptance rate. Well, he only accepted 30% of the story offers we gave him to write for this newspaper this year, so his acceptance rate is low. That's not a thing. That is not a thing. So we're using a lot of terms that are only used in W-2 employment scenarios. That's not okay. It's just not okay. But the way it is, however you get to it, whether you're setting a price or it's by offer, proposal, whatever, you enter into an agreement, you perform the work that's said in the agreement, that's agreed upon. Transparency, another thing. Transparency, AR, deactivated, these are all employment terms. I mean, because in the traditional IC world, if I got a proposal and it's missing how many days the gig is, I'm not going to take it, and neither is anybody else I know. So they're going to have to go, oops, we left that out. It's not like we left that out intentionally. It's like, oops, man, I totally forgot. So I would just call and say, hey, there's no term on here for the length. And they would go, oh my gosh, I can't believe we didn't put that in there. And they would send it right back out to me. I mean, that barely ever happens. But I'm saying and it's not usually that one, but any kind of line item that would matter as to me taking it, I can just call and say I need that in there because it needs to be defined. Even though these gig work is shorter term, often, a rideshare, a delivery, sometimes a courier gig might take you out of state, so it might be a little longer, but for the most part, they're short engagement terms, but it doesn't get around the fact that you either have to find that they are independent contractors or employees. Once the agreement terms have been fulfilled, though, the contract is ended until you have another one, and that's it. It's that simple. So put simply, deactivated means fired, but you cannot fire a non-employee in any state in this country. In the gig app space, when the company wants, they go to the TOS and base decisions on that document. The biggest problem with doing that is even with a TOS, you are referring to employees. However, by the company's own definitions in every single state in this country, we are not employees in any state. We are independent contractors. So how can a person be fired? And even more important, is it being done by an actual human or an algorithm? And if it's an algorithm, is it being reviewed by a human before they let you get deactivated? Because deactivated is deactivated. I mean, that should not be done by an algorithm. Now, if it's like a sorting process to help them see these all happened, you need to take a look into these files. there still needs to be a human interaction there. So true independent contractors by definition, so this is in every state, and again, should apply to the gig economy unless they redefine the space as a hybrid gig contractor or something. But by definition, we are allowed to use any tools, any means, any ways that we see to get the job, task, gig done in the time that's allotted in the contract on our terms. I can use any tools I want. I can drive any way I want. I can get it done however I want as long as it gets done. A true IC must in every single state be free from the hiring entity to perform the work given in a proposal. That's not true on any gig platform. I mean, there's a few little ones, and I won't even take, but the big ones, the giants, that's not true at all. They're not transparent. They're giving for Rideshare, they're giving you, here's how we want you going, and it can be used against you if you don't take that route. You might know a quicker route at a certain time of day, who knows? But even if not, it's up to you, the independent contractor. And I know this could cause a lot of problems, but the problem is they can't have it both ways. So third-party apps, all that kind of thing that some of us have used, Gary Middleton's apps, things like that, those are allowed. Those are allowed by law if we are independent contractors. And the companies say you are absolutely independent contractors. But we're going to tweak things this way. And as we are now seeing, California, Washington State, Seattle, Minnesota, New York, New Jersey, Florida, Colorado, Pennsylvania is coming up next. They are all passing laws that kind of meet in the middle, but contradict independent contractor law. So how is that possible? If we are independent contractor drivers, how is that possible? Leave in the notes, guys, please, all of your comments. I would love it, and it helps me build a next piece, because I'm telling you, there is weird stuff going on, even with states and these companies that most of us know they're in bed with each other on many levels, but that should never affect lawmaking. And something is not happening correctly here. I mean, there's a lot of things, but there's something not happening correctly. And we can start with deactivations, because the way they are done, the way they are not transparent, and why you were deactivated, that is not okay in any state in this country. And that's 13 minutes of gig news in just under 13 minutes. Peace, y'all.